welcome to Wheels No Heels. If this is your first time, my name is Jem. This is my channel. It's dedicated to making videos all about my life with a disability, helping others feel less alone, the way that I did when I was growing up. And I speak a lot more about that in my TED Talk, so why not go and check that out if you haven't watched that already. In today's video, I want to discuss why do people use wheelchairs? And I typed it into Google to see what came up and why do people use wheelchairs? And it says, a wheelchair, often abbreviated to just a chair, is a chair with wheels used when walking is difficult or impossible due to illness, injury, or disability. Wheelchairs come in a wide variety of formats to meet the specific needs of their users. There are 1.2 million wheelchair users in the UK, 2/3 of whom are regular users. The average cost of an electric wheelchair is £5,000 but can go anywhere up to £22,000. The average cost of a manual wheelchair is £500 to £1,000 but believe me, can be considerably more. Get on with the video and discuss this a little further. So today's video is actually inspired by some of the comments that I keep seeing coming up on some of my videos. There were lots of comments where people were talking about why they need a wheelchair. And something that popped up again in this video was that people are shocked when all of a sudden you're walking, or they just can't quite grasp the idea that you need a wheelchair when you can walk. For people who've never experienced people with disabilities, I think there's this stigma that the only reason you use a wheelchair is because you're paralysed. If you're not paralysed, then why do you need a wheelchair? But because this came up so much, I wanted to make a video on it so that you can click that little share button if you want to, put it on Facebook or your Twitter or Reddit or wherever to raise awareness that not all people who use wheelchairs are paralysed. So I actually did a little bit of research I just typed into Google, why do people use wheelchairs? And it was amazing. Nothing came up. There was nothing specific really. I had to sort of dig a little bit and do a little bit of research. But no, there was no actual information that I could find out there. So I asked a lot of you, I think I told you about this video that I was going to be making, and I asked a lot of you out there, why do you use your wheelchair? And for those of you who are comfortable enough to answer, you answered over on the community tab. So with thanks to you and your help, I have been able to make this video to raise a little bit of awareness. So I had a look up and I had a look at all of the types of wheelchairs that are available, and there are about 7 or 8 wheelchairs that I could find that are available. So we have got manual wheelchairs, which are the wheelchairs that I use, that you have to manually push yourself. There's electric wheelchairs, there are electric scooters, there are standing wheelchairs, there's even 3-wheel wheelchairs. There are sports wheelchairs adapted for playing things like murderball. Is it murderball? Yeah, it's murderball and tennis. There are sky chairs, I think they're called, which are the aisle chairs that they use on the planes. There's even wheelchairs for animals, which is quite extraordinary. And if you can think of any other wheelchairs that I... Oh, me, pick me. You didn't mention beach and poolside wheelchairs. I haven't mentioned, then feel free to drop them below. So as you can see, there are many different types of wheelchairs for different types of disabilities. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to list some of the medical conditions that people have left over on the community tab to let you know a little bit more about why people might need to use a wheelchair who aren't necessarily paralysed. Now I'm going to hopefully spell them correctly and list them on the screen, and if you're intrigued as to what that condition is, then please feel free to go and look it up on Google, because I don't really want to get the wrong explanation of the disability or condition. So I'm just going to briefly sort of outline it the best I can. So quite a lot of you have EDS or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which I think I am also on the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome spectrum. I have hypermobility and also my aorta, I think I've got like the connective tissue type 1. Like my aorta was all thin as tissue paper and all stretchy and bendy, and it needed to be cut. Sewn back together again. I'm waffling, but go and watch the spinal cord injury story because that's how it happened. But yes, I have been told that I may have EDS or a type of EDS. And EDS, I'm not going to explain it very well, but it does cause a lot of joint pains and fatigues and things like that, and dislocations as well, which can be very dangerous and very painful as well. So that is why someone may need to use a wheelchair. Another one is a fibromyalgia. I don't know much about this condition, but I know it's very, very painful, so people need to use wheelchairs for this. And yeah, please feel free to look it up if you want to know some more information on it, or I'm sure some people in the comments will let you know what it's all about. But yeah, fibromyalgia causes pain and fatigue, which they will need to use a wheelchair for, just to get a better quality of life. Another one is heart conditions. Some people who have chronic heart conditions could be prone to fainting, and if you're prone to fainting after, you know, exuberation, if you're sat in your wheelchair, your heart rate's kept at a steady pace and you're not going to faint and cause yourself harm. Some people have disabilities that affect their balance. So if that affects you, then you are going to be prone to having falls and hurting yourself. So it is safer for you to be in a wheelchair. I can sort of sympathise that I do suffer with vertigo, so I know what it's like to be off balance, and it's a lot safer to be in your wheelchair. Another one is ME, which is sort of leads to chronic fatigue as well. So it's going to enable you to get out and enjoy days out with friends where you may have been too tired if you've got to walk. So it gives you that little bit extra energy. Some disabilities cause seizures, and that can be very dangerous if you start to fall to the floor and have a seizure, but if you're sat in your wheelchair, it's a lot safer for you. Another condition which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with is cerebral palsy, which can affect your muscles and your movements. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know a few people who have cerebral palsy and have to use a wheelchair to get around and about. Osteoarthritis, again, very, very painful and will need the use of a wheelchair, and lots of different types of connective tissue disorders. You may also need to use a wheelchair. Another one sort of linking to the EDS is hypermobility. Again, this can cause pain and fatigue, so you may need to use a wheelchair to keep yourself safe and prevent you from causing any extra strain on your muscles and joints. So this is just an example of some of the reasons that people need to use a wheelchair who aren't necessarily paralysed. And as you can see from some of those conditions, they enable the person to go out and live a better quality of life. Without the wheelchair, they wouldn't be able to get out, they wouldn't be able to enjoy their day safely, because they may fall and hurt themselves, and also, it gives them a little bit of extra energy. So I really hope that this video has helped maybe enlighten you and made you realise that not everybody who uses a wheelchair is paralysed, and also opened your eyes a little bit to all the different types of conditions there are that do require people to use a wheelchair. I know that I was a little, not shocked, but I was a bit like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense, but never really thought about it before. So I really hope that this video was of use to you. Make sure to give it a thumbs up, share it as well so that we can raise awareness on this issue, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one.